If you've been gardening for any amount of time, you've probably heard the same advice over and over: you need more worms in your soil. And it's true, worms are nature's tillers, composters, and soil engineers all rolled into one slimy little package. But here's the part nobody told me for years. You don't need to buy worms, you don't need to order fancy European night crawlers online, you don't need to chase red wigglers around the market like you're hunting for treasure. The day I realized this, I was standing in my garden frustrated, again, because the worms I'd bought kept disappearing. They weren't dying, they were leaving. And honestly, who could blame them? I hadn't built a reason for them to stay. That's when I stumbled onto the simplest trick I've ever used in my garden. Something so ordinary, so easily available, that almost every gardener already has it lying around: cardboard. Yes, plain, brown, boring cardboard awakened my soil faster than any store-bought worm order ever did. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this trick works, the correct ratios, the moisture levels, the step-by-step process, and how to tailor it to your garden no matter the size. This is, honestly, one of the most powerful, cost-friendly soil hacks I've ever used on Soil Power, and once you understand it, you'll stop buying worms too. Something every gardener eventually learns is that worms are never the problem. If worms are missing, the environment is the problem. Worms don't live somewhere because we put them there. They live there because conditions are right. I was wasting money because my soil didn't offer food, moisture, darkness, or consistent organic matter. Worms simply left to find better living conditions, just like any creature would. But cardboard changed everything. It created the perfect worm habitat naturally, and it did it fast. Cardboard contains cellulose, which is basically worm candy. When you place damp, brown cardboard on soil, several things happen at once. First, the cardboard absorbs and holds moisture, creating a cool, protected environment that worms love. Second, microbes begin breaking down the cardboard, and that microbial activity becomes food for worms. Third, cardboard blocks sunlight, keeping the soil beneath it dark and safe from drying out. What makes cardboard special is its slow decomposition. Leaves and grass break down fast, but cardboard gives a long, steady supply of carbon-rich food that keeps worms around for months. And unlike kitchen scraps, cardboard doesn't attract rats, pests, or flies. It's clean, reliable, and, predictable. But none of this matters unless you use the right amounts. That's where most people, honestly, go wrong. One thing I want to make clear, especially for my Soil Power beginners, is that ratios matter. Too much cardboard and, well, nothing breaks down. But if there's too little, worms just don't get enough to eat. Moisture matters too, Worms need damp, cool conditions to really thrive. Here's what actually works. You want a consistent layer of about 2 to 4 centimeters thick. That's roughly 3/4 to 1.5 inches. This is thick enough to feed worms and hold moisture, but still thin enough to break down nicely. Carbon to nitrogen ratio is simple. Just use 2 parts cardboard to 1 part greens by volume. So, if you're using 2 buckets of shredded cardboard, you just add 1 bucket of greens, like grass clippings, manure, or food scraps. So, when it comes to moisture level, you want to aim for about 60 to 70% moisture, which honestly feels a lot like a wrung-out sponge. If your cardboard is too dry, it just won't break down. On the other hand, if it's waterlogged, it'll rot anaerobically, and that's really not what you want. For soil cover, you should always top your setup with about 2 to 3 centimeters, or roughly 3/4 to 1 inch, of loose soil or finished compost. This keeps everything tidy, helps speed up decomposition, and, it also keeps the worms protected underneath the cardboard instead of wandering above it. Now, let's get into the real heart of this method, the step-by-step system I personally use in my Soil Power garden. This is the exact approach that turned my unimpressive soil into a thriving worm-powered ecosystem. It's simple, affordable, and incredibly effective. Step 1. Prepare your garden bed. Whether you're working with a raised bed, a ground garden, or just a small patch, start by cleaning the area. Remove weeds, sticks, or debris. Gently loosen the top few centimeters of soil. You don't need to dig or till, you're just opening the soil a bit so microbes and worms can move more easily. Once loosened, give the soil a light watering, not soaking, just moist enough to wake up microbes and set the stage. Step 2. Prepare the cardboard. This step matters more than people think. Always use plain brown, uncoated cardboard. Avoid glossy printing, colored inks, and tape. Cut the cardboard into manageable pieces. If you're using it as sheets, break it down by hand so the worms and microbes have more surface area to work with. Soak the cardboard in water for 10 to 15 minutes. This ensures the fibers are hydrated and ready to break down. Once it feels like a heavy, wet sponge, you're ready. Step 3. Lay the cardboard properly. Place the pieces on the soil, overlapping them by at least 5 to 7 centimeters, or about 2 to 3 inches. This, prevents light from slipping through and gives you a solid, even layer. You're aiming for a thickness between 2 and 4 centimeters. If you're layering sheets, 2 layers is usually enough. At this point, your soil is covered in beautiful damp cellulose-rich material that worms crave. Step 4. Add your nitrogen layer. Remember the 2-to-1 ratio. For every 2 parts cardboard, add 1 part green nitrogen. For a 4x8 foot bed, this usually means 3 to 4 medium boxes worth of cardboard paired with half that amount in greens. Spread your greens evenly on top of the cardboard. Grass clippings work beautifully because they're high in nitrogen and break down quickly. Stable manure is excellent too. If all you have are kitchen scraps, that works fine. Just, spread them thinly. This nitrogen speeds decomposition and feeds microbes, which in turn attracts worms. Step 5. Add your soil or compost cap. This is the secret step that many gardeners actually skip. Cover everything with about 2 to 3 centimeters, or roughly 3/4 to 1 inch, of loose soil or compost. This cap does a few important things. It prevents your greens from smelling or attracting pests, keeps the cardboard dark and moist, and it provides a microbe-rich starter layer to really accelerate breakdown. By the time this layer is in place, everything beneath it is quietly transforming into a worm buffet. Step 6. Water, and wait for the worms to move in. Go ahead and give the entire bed a thorough watering, not flooding it, but just enough to really settle the layers. Then, just let nature take over. Within about 2 weeks you'll notice the cardboard starting to soften up, and in 3 to 4 weeks you'll probably see tunnels forming right under the layers. By the 6-week mark, most gardeners experience exactly what I did, an explosion of worms working through all that material. The worms weren't added, they weren't purchased, they came because the environment told them, food is here, moisture is here, safety is here, stay. And, well, stay. They did. Before using cardboard, my soil felt tired, it dried out fast, compacted easily, and lacked life. After adopting this method, I started noticing deeper color in the soil, richer texture, and faster plant growth. When I dug into the beds, I'd find worms everywhere, fat, glossy, healthy worms. Plants responded dramatically, roots grew deeper and thicker, seedlings established faster, water retention improved. And the composting happening under the cardboard created a slow-release fertilizer effect that, kept the beds fertile for months. The best part? I didn't spend a single shilling on worms again. Cardboard did the work, nature did the rest. Beginners love this method because it's simple and forgiving. There are no complicated calculations, no expensive materials, and no need for special knowledge. Experienced gardeners appreciate it because it respects natural soil biology. It's basically a mild, slow-motion version of sheet mulching, lasagna gardening, and vermicomposting all in one. So, whether your soil is sandy, clay-heavy, compacted, or even just plain depleted, worms and microbes, well, they actually respond the same way. They follow moisture, food, and shelter, and cardboard creates all three, without disturbing the soil structure. And because this method builds soil from the top down, it really becomes an evergreen system. Year after year, you can just repeat it and watch your garden fertility climb. If you're tired of spending money on worms that just disappear, give this cardboard method a try. It's simple, reliable, and honestly, incredibly effective. It's also one of the few soil building hacks that, well, works in every climate, every garden type, and every budget. This trick totally transformed my soil power garden, and yeah, it will do the same for yours. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Soil Power, share this with a gardener who needs it, and stick around for more powerful soil building tips. Your soil has more potential than you think. Let's unlock it together.